Here we go. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Health Movement Podcast. This is episode 9, and we're going to be talking about solutions to common fitness and health roadblocks. I'm Derek, I'm a two-sport collegiate athlete, certified personal trainer, as well as a teacher of over 20 years.
I'm Tim. I'm a certified athletic trainer and a nationally registered EMT.
Before we really get going, I just want to say, as always, we are not doctors, so make sure you consult your physician before beginning anything physically or changing your diet. And just before we get started with the actual show, there are just a couple things I want to touch base on. We had talked before about guests coming on, and we actually have a bunch lined up. The next one we have will be out for the following episode after this one. Her name is Sam Coops. She's a trainer for women pre and postnatal, as well as a fitness competitor. She's going to be competing in Worlds in Mexico in a few months, so it'll be cool to have her on and get her point of view on everything fitness, health, nutrition, all that fun stuff. We are, in terms of locations now, we did hit 10 countries and 118 cities. So we're kind of going out there a little bit. We appreciate everybody who takes the time to listen and spreading the word. So with that out of the way, let's go. Oh, one other thing. I forgot to tell you, Tim, I put up a poll on LinkedIn about a 30-day fitness challenge I want to try, and I had people vote on either giving up sugar for 30 days, run a mile a day for a month, sounds miserable, or do yoga for 20 to 30 minutes a day for a month. And somebody actually called me out on it. They were like, well, what do you want to do? I'm like, well, I probably should get rid of the sugar because I know that I have a little too much of that. And I'm like, the other two sound miserable. And she goes, well, you guys always say that the thing that you are weakest at and you don't like is probably the thing you should do. Like, awesome way to throw my words back in my face.
Hey, that's it. But that's the thing, right? That's
yeah, that's
we talk about accountability too. That's the other part of that, right? Like
So thanks, Jeannie.
That's our
appreciate
listeners
that.
it's our listeners holding us accountable right there. I love that.
I know. I kind of liked it. So I'm going to do all three. It's like, whatever. We'll give it a shot. I don't know.
So you're going to do yoga on your own, or you're going to go to a studio?
Yeah. I'll do like YouTube yogas or something like that. I don't know if people have suggestions on who to follow. It's going to be embarrassing though. I should probably try to videotape one of them.
I was going to say we might need to document that a little bit too.
Yeah. I'll take one for the team there. I think you should do one too, though.
Yeah. I'm definitely not running a mile. I don't know if that's in my, I could maybe walk a mile, but I don't know about running. It's,
yeah.
It's
anyway, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, we'll jump right in. Roadblock number 1. We broke these up into the 4 major cornerstones that we kind of talk about: fitness, nutrition, rest and recovery, and mindset. And the first roadblock that people often run into, or that they say, is, I don't have enough time. Tim, what are you going to say to them?
Well, we've talked about this a little bit too, and I think the biggest thing is, in what I said previously, is you got to make the time. But I think the other piece to that is like, all right, well, how do you chisel that time out of your day? And I think the biggest thing is you have to create a schedule for yourself. And it doesn't have to be setting concrete a schedule, but a general guideline or an outline to your day and to your week, maybe even your month, and really try to work out what that time looks like. And I think the other piece to that is, all right, well, you shared this before, of that video or you shared it with me on Instagram, of the video of the guy talking about, like, set your ceiling and set your floor. Right. And what does he say? He says something like, your ceiling is 2.5 hours of
working out,
killer workout with recovery and an ice bath and all that stuff. And my floor is, I can bang out 100 push-ups and 100 bodyweight squats in, about 2.5 minutes. Right. So that's like, that's really all right. So what does that look like? And maybe some days you you give the bare minimum, and then you have other days where you give your max, and then there's days where you're going to be somewhere in the middle of that too. So that's a big thing of how you try to make that time. But I think the biggest thing is really create a schedule, and that goes for, and it's going to help to be successful in other areas, right? It's going to help to keep you on point with other things like we've talked about with, maybe it's the social aspect or your family time or, all those other things, work and all that. But it'll help you in multiple different areas. But the biggest thing is, if that's what you're really having the struggle with for, physical activity, that's how you're going to have to try to make the time.
Yeah, I agree. You got to plug it. It's got to be like a scheduled appointment or something. You don't need it a lot. 3 times a week. If you can get a workout in 3 times a week and just make sure you're moving, you can definitely do that. You need help, head over to healthmovement.us. There's a coaching tab. You can ask questions on there and just let us know what you need help with, and we're always here for you. But another thing, like when you're watching TV and just instead of sitting on the couch for 2 hours, do 5 minutes of air squats, do some jumping jacks, or just move. Quick little things like that are going to make a huge difference. So I don't have enough time. Everybody has the same amount of time in a day. I know people have it filled with certain things. But if you're ready to make your health a priority, then, stop scrolling on your phone for 2 hours a day and
Well,
do something else.
The key word there is priority, right? Like, what's your priority? What are you prioritizing in your life? And that's where you're going to find the time.
Yeah. Have you ever looked at the battery app on your phone and you see how long your phone is on throughout the course of an average day?
Yeah.
It's almost embarrassing.
Yeah. Oh,
Where
yeah,
I
for
look
sure.
at it, I'm like, oh, that's bad. That's really bad. I don't even want to take a screenshot. Oh my, because it's bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a feeling that's most people though.
Well, and this is, so just to kind of, it is gonna, a little bit of an aside here, but the thing with that is you can always set time limits on your apps too, right? So
Yeah.
that you can go through and, if I'm on Instagram, an hour a day, well, maybe you give yourself 15 minutes of scrolling time, and then your phone will remind you and say, hey, your 15 minutes is up, and you have your choice to ignore it, or you can blow right through that stop sign, or you can make the choice to kind of give yourself a little break.
Yeah, there's a clip I was going to show a little later on. Huberman was talking about that. But you're right. Yeah, definitely got to break that up a little bit.
All right, so roadblock number 2. The big thing you hear a lot is your people are uncomfortable going into a gym, or uncomfortable, going into that kind of setting, or, maybe even don't even know where to start or where to begin.
I think with this one, it's going to the gym. You don't need to go to a gym. There, you can get a $20 set of bands off Amazon and get all the resistance you need in terms of resistance training there. So going to a gym is definitely not a necessity. Some people like it because it's away from home and you have no distractions. There's no football on TV. There's nothing else. Like you can go to the gym and that's what you're doing. But also for people who don't know what they're doing, this is where you have to do some research on your own, listen to podcasts, watch videos, or hire a coach. Like we keep talking about the importance in investing in yourself, and for spending time and money with a coach. Sorry about that. But taking time to spend money on a coach, that financial investment, it can pay dividends in the long run. If you're with a coach for 3 months and you learn what you need to do and you're able to do it 5 years later on your own, that's a heck of an investment. You buy a car for 50 grand and you're buying a new one in 5 or 6 years for the same price. That money just disappears. The other money, you've improved yourself. You've learned what you need to learn. So I think that's a big thing.
I think the big thing with that one too is like you said, it doesn't have to be forever. It just, especially if you're
No.
a novice, inexperienced person, it just lays the foundation for you to be able to kind of understand how you should be moving, ways to do it safely. You don't want to, the big thing is you don't want to hurt yourself. You don't want to lead yourself down a road where you're going to injure yourself. So it's a great way to get your feet wet and kind of understand what you should be doing. And then, and you can use that to kind of springboard yourself to your own, fitness journey and find out ways to do things on your own.
Yeah. And I mean, if you were to look at it and somebody asks, like, all right, let's say you go to a super expensive coach where you're paying $1,000 a month and you're with them for, I don't know, 5 months. Is it worth $5,000 over the next 5 months for the next 50 years of your life to be in much better shape, to be healthier, to live longer, to think clearer, to be able to enjoy that time? Like, I think if you look back 50 years later, you probably think that was money well spent. $1,000 move is pretty steep. I'm not saying go out. You can go much cheaper than that, but I'm just saying in terms of return on investment, you get a heck of a lot if you get that knowledge and understand what you're doing.
I mean, think if you're paying a trainer $50 a week for one set, $50 a session once a week for a month, that's $200 a month, right? That's again, it's just about trying to, in again, you don't have to do it long term. It's just trying to lay that groundwork, lay that foundation.
Yeah, exactly. All right, roadblock number 3. We keep preaching 10,000 steps a day. And I do hear people like, I just can't get to that. I can't find a way to get to 10,000 steps. And part of me is just like, oh, you need to. Like, it's a non-negotiable, get there. But I do understand there are roadblocks with people's professions and daily schedules and lives and everything. What do you got on that one?
I think the big thing is start with getting a pedometer. You start with how you're going to measure that, right? And we've talked about this previously, and then the other piece to that is start to do things that are going to promote you moving and promote you to continue to work on that step goal. You talked about taking the stairs versus taking the elevator or the escalator. Park at the furthest part, park at the back of the parking lot, so you have to walk all the way. Things like that are going to slowly start to add movement and add steps to your day. If you work at a desk, if you're on an office job or you're on the phone a lot, walk on your phone calls and do things that are going to, again, promote your movement and try to keep you not in that sedentary state as much as possible.
Yeah, there's even I put this into Chat GPT because I had some ideas on my own, but I'm sure there's plenty I hadn't think of. And one of the responses was walk while you're brushing your teeth, just like pace in circles. Which, you think about it, like, you're supposed to. Not everybody does, but you're supposed to brush your teeth for 2 minutes. You can get about 100 steps in a minute if you're just moving in circles, and there's 200 steps right there. And you should brush your teeth more than once a day. So that works. That works there.
Good, right?
I do with this one though. I will say this one frustrates me a little bit because I have had people comment like, "Oh, you're lucky you're in shape, all this stuff," and they'll be saying it to me while they're pushing the button to go up the elevator 1 flight of stairs. And I'm like, just walk, just move. It makes a huge difference in the long run. So that's in the 10,000
It's funny
steps.
because in my current job, I have to, I'm an on-site medic, but I'm a wellness coach for a construction site too, right? And we have an elevator that there's a first, second, and third floor. And I do my site walks throughout the day to walk through the site and, try to talk to people and see how people are doing. And I purposely avoid the elevator because it's not a good look if your wellness coach is walking around the site taking the elevator all the time, So I try to avoid that as much as possible. I think I've been there for about 4.5 months. I think I've taken the elevator 3 times. So it's
and I mean, I get it. If you're on the 50th floor, like, by all means, hit the button and take a ride. Like, that's a bit much. If you have the time, go for it. But it's, it's a little crazy. All right. Roadblock 4. We're going to hop into nutrition for the next 2 roadblocks here. This one, I am hungry all the time.
The key here is quality over quantity, right? And you're gonna look for nutritionally dense and maybe calorically dense foods that can help, right? Things that, and the other piece to that is I always tell this to people too, is a good way to curb good way to help curb hunger is hydration. The water is
Yeah.
a big key there too, where it can help to fill that void and also kind of work on making you feel full instead of constantly being hungry. So the other piece to that is you need to really track, all right, well, how many calories are you burning versus calories you're eating? And then, that's kind of goes into a lot of the stuff that we've talked about before. But I think that's a key to really knowing, all right, well, it's okay if you're always hungry if you're not hitting your calorie goal, right? And you're not,
Yeah.
you have to be able to track that to know what you're doing. So that's a key to that whole thing.
Yeah, one of the women I was working with said this very same thing, and once she tracked the calories that she was eating, I think she was eating 1,300 in a day, and she didn't think she could eat any more than that. And then, after working for a month, she's like, I feel full and I'm losing weight and I feel better. Like it was, I think she just didn't know, like at that point in time. And when you starve yourself, or not starve yourself, but when you don't get enough calories and your body adjusts, your metabolism slows down and everything. So you really gotta ramp it up with the foods that you're eating. And, like you said, dense foods, protein rich foods, start off the day with something that's going to keep you full longer. Have some eggs, have a protein shake, if you're having, simple sugars with the cereal or something like that that doesn't take any time to digest, you're going to be hungry in an
Well,
hour.
that's
And then you
and I
just,
think we've talked about that before too, is especially the protein, right? And the protein can be a big key to you feeling more full and helping you to feel less hungry throughout the day. And I think people don't realize how much protein they need, right? Or like we've talked about, you should be eating, a gram of protein for every pound of body weight, right? And um that's where it's like something that who actually hits that in a day and who's able to track that. And that's tracking those macronutrients, which, I know is um it can be it can be a little bit of a slippery slope with those kind of things, and especially with people that can hyperfixate on that stuff. But
yeah,
that can be a big key to understanding how you're feeling and what you're feeling is start by tracking that stuff and knowing what you're eating and get to that. And we've talked about it before, a food diary, a food log, or something like that to really understand what you're putting into your body and what you're lacking and what you're eating in excess, right? And that makes a big a big part of what you're eating or what you're feeling. It makes up a big part of that.
it definitely does. And I think another thing is snacking will will kind of make it hard because it's not going to fill you up. And if you're constantly popping in, a couple hundred calories of chips here, and then you wait, a half hour, and then you're immediately hungry again. So you're popping more in, and you're not giving yourself that meal that actually is sustainable. So that's big, is to figure out what you're going to eat. Eat meals, make sure you get enough protein in each of them. And then you'll definitely feel fuller. If you're hitting your body weight and protein each day, you don't feel hungry. Like that fills you up. It's not easy to do. All right. Roadblock 5. I can't stop snacking or eating at night.
I mean, I think this is one where give yourself a cutoff, right? Of where you're what time you want to stop eating, right? And I think for me, I try not to eat anything past 7 o'clock at night. And if you're
Yeah, that's
doing,
usually mine too.
and I think the other piece to that is you got to let yourself digest before you go to bed, right? You don't want to be going to bed on a full stomach, and yeah, there is a rest and digest aspect to that, but you don't want that to be your routine or your daily habit either.
Yeah, absolutely. I did picking the time and stopping right at that. That's huge. That makes such a big difference. Um, you don't want to at 6:58 shove as much food in your mouth as you possibly can just to get it in there. But consistently do that. And then if you have that consistent bedtime too, you know about when you should stop eating. So
Mhm.
that's good there.
And
All right.
keyword
Sorry.
keyword in all of that is consistency, right? And we talk
Yes.
about that a lot, but that's the key word is you want to be consistent. And that way when you have a day where you fluctuate outside that norm, it's not going to affect you as much as it would if you're wildly inconsistent all the time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, all right. Well, we're going to change to a new one of the other cornerstones is rest and recovery. Um, Roadblock 6, I can't fall asleep at night. I have trouble sleeping, which I think a lot of people run into this one.
And especially nowadays with our phones, right? The blue light from the phone can very much affect your neural activity, right? And it tricks your brain into thinking, oh, maybe it's more daytime. It keeps you awake, and it really creates a bad a bad balance of what your brain is, it's perceiving as to what time of day it is. So that's a big thing. Another piece to that goes back to the nutritional piece, right? For me, it's you want to talk about caffeine intake, and you really shouldn't be taking any caffeine past, I'd say, 1 or 2 in the afternoon, just because the half life of that caffeine is so long. It can take up to 10 to 12 hours to get out of your system. So that's, you don't want to be in it affects everybody differently. I feel like for
Yeah.
me, I could
And
drink
you will,
coffee, fall
you hear
asleep.
people
But
that drink coffee at 6 or 8 at night and they say, oh, I go to sleep fine. But your sleep is not going to be good sleep if you still have caffeine running through your veins at that hour. So yeah, 1, 2 o'clock should be the last, definitely. Um, and then in terms of, like you said, screens, you got to turn them off an hour. The hour is good. 2 hours is better before bedtime. And I'm just as guilty as everybody else. It's hard. Like, I mean, how many times you watch a football game before falling asleep or something else? And you're like, all right, now I'm going to go to bed because the screen's been on. But I don't know, talk to somebody, read a book, build Legos with your kids. Like, there are tons of things that you could do that, I remember growing up, we could watch one TV show a week during the school week. We had a half-hour show, and that was it, or an hour. We'd sometimes watch the A-Team, and that was it. But other than that, like, as a kid, you're drawing pictures, you're outside. If it's light out, like, you didn't come home till it was pitch black. And then you're like, all right, I gotta go to bed now.
yeah,
You
but
were pushing.
you had to get up and change the channel on the knob, though, didn't you? That was
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, and you got the bunny ears on the TV trying to get the signal to come in. Yeah, it was a different time. How many
hey,
kids now actually watch commercials or know what
you
that is?
you dated yourself when you said the A team. So
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm old. I'm old. I know it. I know it. I saw a clip of they were interviewing rookies in the NFL and holding up. They had a VHS cassette and they're like,
yeah, I
"What's
saw
this?"
that.
And they not a clue.
And there was
A
like two
tape
players
cassette.
that got.
Yeah, and they held up a floppy disk too, and the guy's like, "Is this a CD?" Hey, come on, those aren't that old.
Or you
Like I
see,
lived through.
yeah, I've seen one where kids are like, "Oh, that's the save icon." I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah,
that's why it's the save icon."
yeah, yeah. So I thanks. Yeah, I guess we're just talking about how old I am right
All
now,
right, we
which is always
we digress. We digress.
yeah. Yes, we do. But there's stuff you can do. If it is a medical issue, something like that, like sleep apnea. Some people need that. What's that thing called? The machine that you stick on your face?
The CPAP.
Yes, the CPAP. You sound like Darth Vader a little bit, but that can certainly help. Limiting alcohol is good. Another big thing is just moving throughout the day. If you're sedentary and not doing anything, if you're in that 4,000 step range, you haven't done anything, so you're gonna have a lot of trouble falling asleep. And sunlight early in the morning is shown to um, help your body get into the proper rhythms, day and nighttime rhythms, so it knows. If you're outside at 8 in the morning, your body is learning that, all right, now I'm awake. And then, 12, 14 hours later, it's bedtime.
That's that circadian rhythm, right? And
Yeah.
that goes back to the consistency of your sleep wake cycle and all those things that makes a big difference. So
Yes.
the other piece that a lot of people I feel like kind of balk at or kind of make fun of is, breathing techniques or meditation, using those as relaxation techniques to kind of unwind and de-stimulate your nervous system throughout the day. So that those are also options to try to, and should be worked on more regularly than they are. And again, you talk about meditation, and I think it's one of those things that people kind of make fun of or poke fun at, and it's, you don't have to call it meditation. You can say mindfulness, or
Yeah.
just trying to disconnect a little bit, maybe dissociate a little bit from your day and from what you're feeling, and also try to dial in a little bit more on those things too. Like it can help you to kind of filter through those things a little bit easier.
Yeah. In terms of breathing, there's something Andrew Huberman, where you take one really long inhale through your nose, and then when you can't do any more, stop and do another like quick one, hold it for 5 seconds, and then slowly let it out, and do that for a minute or two. And it's really supposed to have a profound effect on relaxing you, calming you down. You're saying if you do that like in a stressful situation, even just once or twice, it helps out a ton.
Or even box breathing, you know what I mean? Box
Yeah.
breathing is 4 second inhale, 4 second hold, 4 second exhale, and then work through that cycle there where it helps you to slow you. It's been proven to slow down. It can help with anxiety, it can help with stress, it can help with all those things that can help to kind of dial you in a little bit more, and in kind of resetting yourself.
Yeah. So like if you can't fall asleep, you're laying in bed, try it. Do it for a minute or two, and you'll notice you could notice a quick difference there. All right, roadblock number 7. I am
You know,
sore all the time. What's up?
no, I was gonna lead into it, but you're
Oh, yeah,
walking
go for
over me. No, you already said it. You already said it.
it.
It's okay. It's
I
okay.
ruined it. I stole your thunder. All right, we'll pretend
No,
nobody heard it. Go for it, Tim.
no, it's okay. It's okay. It's. I think the big thing is, and it depends on who we're talking about here, right? If it's somebody that's overtraining all the time and doing too much, well, then you need to work in a rest day, and focus on your recovery piece a little bit more. If it's somebody that's a little bit more sedentary and not as active, it could be that you need to be a little bit more active and you need to do more on your own. I think on both ends of that spectrum, people could do more mobility and more, focus a little bit more on their own recovery and, self soft tissue work. And, I think I hammer foam rolling a little bit too much sometimes. And I think it
Well,
can be.
I read you've got to hear something 7 times before it actually sinks in. So I think the more we say it, the better. I don't think that's a bad thing.
Well, I also think it can be a little overrated, right? It's not the end all be all, but I also think it's something that people don't do enough of. And
Yeah.
working on that on your own it's an important piece. The other piece to that is it goes back to the nutrition and hydration piece. It could have something to do with how much inflammation you have in your body that could be affected by your diet, or how dehydrated you are, or maybe you don't get enough of your electrolytes or your trace minerals like magnesium or potassium, or the sodium is kind of hammered a little bit, kind of
Yeah.
hammered a lot. But I think, getting those, and it doesn't have to be through like a supplemental thing. It's look up foods that are rich in magnesium, rich in potassium, which everybody knows the potassium is in bananas. I think that's probably like the most well-known food with potassium in it. But
Yeah.
another thing is, avocados are high in those things, in potassium, and also in a good healthy form of fat. You know what I mean? So it's just understanding what foods have what micronutrients in them, what foods are made up of the macronutrients, and that's what we're talking. Kind of bringing that nutrition piece in again. It can play a factor too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you hit all of it there. Making sure you get enough sleep is another huge thing. If you're not resting enough or sleeping, if you're getting 4 or 5 hours a night, that could be another huge thing there. Um, but yeah, those are the big ones there. Get your fruits and vegetables in, whole grains, lean proteins. Get some anti-inflammatories in there. If you're getting a lot of processed sugar, processed food, added sugar processed food, you're going to get a lot of inflammatory substances in your body, and that's not going to help either. So I think that one's good. I'll let you introduce Roadblock 8.
This is, people that continue to get hurt, right? And say they keep getting hurt and they keep sustaining injuries. A big one, again, we mentioned overtraining can be play a big component to this. I think the other piece to this is, and this is what we kind of talked about with getting a trainer, is maybe your movement is imbalanced, or you're doing things incorrectly. Your form and technique might be off. Your posture can be maybe affected, and those are all things that play a factor in injury prevention, but also, to making you more susceptible to injury as well. So these are pieces where you want to try to make sure that you're doing things correctly and safely, to make sure that you're not overdoing certain movements. And that's going back to what you were talking about at the beginning of the show, when you were saying that we tell people to do things that they're work on their weaknesses. This is a big area where your weaknesses turn into your injuries, and that
Yeah.
can be something that you can work on, and work on the things that you don't like, work on the things that you're bad at, because those are probably the things that are going to help you to avoid injury and to prevent injury.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot, like, how many people have we seen where they don't run for 9 months, and then, they hit a line drive and they're trying to sprint to first. It's the first time they've run in forever. And then they're a little surprised when something pulls, or then they'll always get hurt. Well, you haven't done anything forever. You gotta stay active. You gotta stretch. You gotta make sure you're loosening up before you do certain things. Um, but overtraining, I feel like, is the biggest culprit of people who constantly are getting hurt. It's because you're not letting yourself heal. So that's going to happen.
Yeah.
All right, on to the last of the cornerstones, mindset. These are big. Like, if you're getting stuck on these, the other ones kind of fall apart. So the first one, Roadblock 9, I have no motivation to do my workouts or to eat well or to do any of that stuff, or just none in general.
I think this one is find your why, right? Find the reason or find the thing that is gonna motivate you, or is gonna springboard you to where you want to be. We've spoken about it before, but setting goals, right? And it not just long-term goals, but your short-term goals that are going to lead you to your long-term goal, and work on focusing on those short-term goals. And if you check those boxes of your short-term goal, it's going to lead to your long-term goal. And that's where the goal setting process is very important, to try to to lead yourself and guide yourself to where you need to be.
Yeah, your why is huge. You understand what you're doing, and I put in the show notes, I don't know if you saw it, the vision board. If you create a vision board and get down the things that you want, Joe Mazzulla, head coach of the Celtics, was on Part of My Take. Barstool Sports posted this, but this is a cool little clip because he definitely did. Let me pull up the.
Was your dream to be a Celtics head coach, or was that something that was unfathomable at the time?
So we had a prayer board that my wife and I put up, and it was only it was the Celtics. It was like, be a head coach for the Celtics. We were very, very, very specific. I actually have this vision board that a friend of mine worked on, and the three things on there were the Larry O'Brien trophy, the Celtics logo, and then a picture of Brad, because I wanted to work for Brad, I wanted to work for the Celtics, and I wanted to win a championship with the tutelage of Brad and for the Celtics. And those three things have been on there for like 10 years.
That's crazy. 10 years. And for those who don't know, Brad he's referring to as Brad Stevens, who used to be the head coach for the Celtics and is now the general manager, who hired Joe Mazzulla. And honestly, it was surprising who was hired after Ime Udoka. But to have that for 10 years, that specific a goal, is crazy. That was his why, though. That's what he wanted. That was his motivation. And when your motivation wanes and you're disciplined in what you're doing and you know why you're doing it, it makes it way easier to continue with.
Yeah.
But I think another thing that helps with motivation too is finding somebody that can help keep you accountable. It could be like a coach, like we've mentioned before, but it could be a friend that you're doing it too. Like Tim at the beginning of the show said he was going to run a mile a day, just like I am for the next 30 days. So I know we're going to be able to check in on each other with that. So that'll be helpful. And he's going to get his yoga pants on and do that one too.
The yoga is a lot more attainable than the running for me. Maybe I'll bike a mile.
Like yoga is, for people who haven't done it, it's hard. Like that one I'm dreading more than the other ones. I can squeeze out a mile. It's, 6 to 8 minutes, somewhere in there. 20 to 30 minutes of yoga, holding the poses. That's
this guy's bragging over here about his mile time.
Yeah, no, an 8-minute mile. Yeah, we'll see. I have to run it for the first time tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. I'll keep you updated. It's probably
I'd
be
be
like
lucky to break a
12-minute
mile. So.
Yeah. Well, I think you can walk about a 12-minute mile, 12 to 14 minutes, I think.
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe on a treadmill. I don't know if I live in a hilly area. I don't know how that would go.
You do. All right. I'm excited to see your progress, though, Tim. And one other thing on here that we have written down, two other things that are important. Track your progress. If you're set, you have your mind set on a goal, you need to track that progress, and then you need to celebrate the small wins. Like it's a victory for me to get out and run a mile. I haven't run a mile I'll play basketball, I play softball, like I'll do a sport, but to just go run, like, no thanks. I ran track in college and it was straightaways. Like I ran the hurdles straight. And then every now and then the coach would make me run around the curves. And I was like, all right, but this is miserable. So yeah. Looking forward to that for sure. All right. You want to introduce the last one?
All right. Last one is, feel sad or alone or even depressed. Right. And I think this is one that a lot more people deal with than people realize.
Yeah, it's an important one. It's kind of a sensitive topic to discuss with some people. First of all, if you need professional help, like obviously reach out. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing to be ashamed of. You'd be surprised the number of people that have spoken to a therapist or a counselor or something like that. Another big one is social interactions with people is huge. Being alone and by yourself, it makes it you keep ruminating on the same thoughts, and you kind of stay in that spot. Find the people who are important to you, family that you love, friends that you're tight with, and even it doesn't have to be a long time. You don't have to go out and have dinner parties or anything like that, but even a quick phone call, something like that, to get that social interaction is huge. There was a video I had downloaded. I forget what it is though. Should I hit it and see what it says? I guess we can always delete it if it's no good.
Social connection, social interaction is so vital to our mood and mental health. But oftentimes we hear social connection and we think, oh, that means we have to spend a lot of time with friends. We have to organize dinner parties. Well, sure, that's all fine and good if you can do that. And I do, of course, encourage people to spend time with those that they love. But it's also important to take a step back and just think a bit, maybe even write out a bit, who are the groups and sorts of individuals and interactions that really tax you? Who are the people that you find kind of neutral? And what are the individuals and groups that really provide what Lisa referred to as savings? That is, they tap into the metabolic and neurochemical pathways that lead us to have improved mood and mental health, not just during those interactions, but away from those interactions as well, and often pervasively and extremely positively so. So this is no small deal. This is a really important aspect of our mental health.
So yeah, social interactions. That's the one. Huberman, he's got a lot of research and background into all that, the things that he talks about. So that's big. Another thing I saw about, depression, sadness, all that, you have to complete a task to feel a sense of accomplishment. And it doesn't even have to be a big task. Like you could put away the laundry, and it's not fun, but it's a task. You can go run errands, go to Target and pick up, I don't know, fabrics or whatever it is you need. But little things along the way that get you up and moving. First of all, get you out of the house, but also give you a sense of accomplishment. It doesn't have to be big.
And again, in physical activity helps to curb depression, helps with anxiety. And personally, it's one of my biggest things that helps me. You know, I can get some anxiety at times, and a lot of that, you know, I kind of have a history with that kind of stuff, and I always know that is my biggest one of the biggest things I can do to medicate myself. You know what I mean? It is like a form of medication for me, where
Yeah.
I know that is what I need to get back to. And again, that it's the routine too. I think for me, if I'm out of routine, I'm out of sync, I'm not being active. And again, it doesn't have to be going to the gym. This is something that nowadays it's almost next to impossible for me to get to the gym. So it's, what am I doing? I'm going on walks with my dog. I play with Keegs in the backyard, or we work on playing sports, and it also helps to show him and to get him used to it at an early age of it's good for you, and get him to understand that, you know, and it's something that I didn't learn until I was in college. You know what I mean? Until I was going to school for these things, to really know that how beneficial and how good they were for me. And you know, it goes a long way. I mean, that goes for anything. I think I think back to my nutrition course when I was in undergrad, and the eye-opening experience I had of, again, a lot of the things that we talk about here. Shout out to George Abood, Salem State. I don't know if he'll ever see this, but that man helped me in a lot of ways, where it's something that makes a big difference for how you feel. Your diet, you are what you eat, right? So your diet can very much play a factor on that too. So you know, a lot of these things are multifactorial. There's a lot of aspects to them, and that can make a big difference.
Yeah. So those are the 10, not the only 10 roadblocks, but 10 major roadblocks that people run into when they're going through their fitness, health, nutrition, recovery, mindset, all that stuff. We should have told you to take notes at the beginning, but didn't think of it. Do you want to play the game or save that for next time?
Maybe we'll save that for next time. We're kind of at a long point.
Yeah, we're pushing it time wise. All right, we'll save the game. We got a game we're gonna play. Maybe we'll get Sam to play with us on the next one. See if you and her can go head to head on that one.
Yeah.
But as always, if you need anything from us, hop over to the healthmovement.us website. You can ask questions, you can leave feedback, you can just get, sign up for a coaching call, complimentary. We've got a lot of guests lined up that super excited for, in all different walks of life, from nutritionists to doctors to scientists and everything else. So it should be an exciting time. This might actually be our last show, just the two of us.
For at least the time, for a little bit,
No, forever, Tim. Forever. We're
gonna be going a while here, so I have a hard time believing that, but we'll see.
Yeah. So but hopefully you guys enjoy the people that we have coming on in the next couple episodes, and we'll take it from there.
Yep. Heck yeah. Awesome.
All right. Well, thank everybody. Thank you all for spending the last 40 minutes or so with us. We appreciate every single one of you. As I said, we're in 10 countries right now. Send it to your friends in other countries, and let's see if we can get that number up. We'd love to get to, I don't know, 15 in the next month or so. Would be pretty cool. So thank you all for joining us. All right, hold on, let me hit stop.